Bases dropped on a new round of Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer is down here. It is 9:05 here in the East, here at Hemingway Estates, staring at the Gulf of Mexico. We are here today and tomorrow, then back at Office HD starting the week again next week. But as always, when we kick things off, rundown today, it's Thursday thoughts. And obviously, I'm sure that there are still thoughts about what happened with Atlanta United and Inter Miami yesterday with Joseph Martinez. That's on the table. We've got some news. Obviously, the roster was released for the men's national team. Some interesting names that were attached to it. We'll run through that roster and everything that is attached there. We've got news out of NISA about a merger of teams. When it came to the men's national team, it was the women's national team had their first game as a part of the new package through Warner Brothers Discovery and HBO Max. The post-game show did not hide anything when it came to what they all thought about the future of Greg Berhalter. We'll get into that. We've got opening kickoff having to do with the IFAB meeting yesterday. We'll get into that. Also, there's news in and around, obviously, with January transfers, everything going on. Who's going where, who may not be going where, gossip, rumor, innuendo. Good morning, Alex. Morning, Rack. And, morning, Niall. Also on the board. No doubt about that, Niall. Still waiting for the goodbye post for Joseph. And also the other thing to get into this morning, Deloitte announced no rumors, Rack, but I mean, we will have, we do have the Giakoumakis conversations that are still going on. Cadiz, apparently, according to Jarrett and his research yesterday and everything going on in Europe, Cadiz has now been added to the equation when it comes to Giakoumakis, who is currently at Celtic. But Deloitte came out with their top 20 most valued teams, and so we'll get into that and see what Deloitte thought about who the top 20 teams were when it came to the most valuable franchises across the planet, not just league, but across the planet. And apparently 11 of them, no surprise, are from the Premier League. So we'll get into that too. But what I wanted to do this morning was morning Bam, or let's see. So it should be 14 hours ahead. So good evening, or 15 hours ahead. Good evening. And we'll try to send you on your way and on your day on as good an informational note as possible. So Thursday thoughts across the board. Once again, thanks to all of you guys on the Twitch pitch that let us know what's on your mind every single day. And the fact that you guys have conversations amongst yourselves and have that kind of an honest discussion. That's kind of part of what we do here. But so I wanted to start this morning with what we saw out of IFAB, and it was their meeting yesterday, and it was a mixed bag when you get into yes and no, but the preeminent discussion was the one that was obviously the most disappointing, and this will come from our friends. This will come from our friends at The Guardian. The Premier League temporary concussion substitute trial was rejected at the IFAB meeting, which means that MLS can't have it either. So temporary concussion sub-trial in the Prem next season rejected by IFAB. They met at Wembley yesterday to discuss the possibility of a trial after a request from FIFPro, the World Players Union, and the World Leagues Forum to test the protocol in the Premier League, Ligue 1, and Major League Soccer. The FA's chief executive, Mark Bullingham, who supported the idea of a trial, said no consensus could be reached. Very strong and different views in the room. We didn't reach a consensus. We agreed that it would remain under active review. However, Bullingham said now that there was no chance of a trial taking place in the next Premier League, Liga, or MLS season. The focus, he said, was on improving the effective implementation of the permanent concussion substitute protocol. The news, obviously, is a major blow. And this is from Barry Glendenning at The Guardian. To brain injury campaigners who believe the temporary concussion sub-approach would give the best protection for players. Bullingham said the concussion debate was the longest conversation in the meeting, which overran by 90 minutes. When asked whether a Premier League trial could still happen next season or had been pushed further away, he said, quote, "It's been pushed further away. I tabled it a year ago. I tabled it today." There are different points of view, and they all have merit. I'm probably not the best person to give you both sides of the argument, but there won't be IFAB support for a trial right now, end quote. Permanent concussion sub-trial instead will continue indefinitely. FIFA conducted a survey of team doctors that had adopted the trial, found that 71% supported the permanent concussion substitute model. The FA had been coordinating international efforts to get a temporary temporary concussion trial approved, gathered together the other three UK football associations on Monday, where it was understood the majority were united in supporting a protocol being trialed, and we got into that discussion on Monday as well. However, and this is once again from Glendenning, the fact that no consensus could be reached indicates FIFA remains convinced that the permanent concussion substitution trial is the best approach. PFA head of brain health, Dr. Adam White, said, quote, "It's extremely disappointing that IFAB's members have yet again passed on the opportunity to introduce what we believe would be a valuable tool for concussions to protect player welfare. League and player unions are aligned on this. Asked IFAB for permission to introduce temporary concussion subs from next season. There's a fundamental issue if player unions and leagues feel football's lawmakers are holding them back from doing what they collectively agree is best to protect the safety of players. The next step will be for unions and leagues to discuss what this means and what options are available to them. We believe the introduction of a temporary concussion sub is now increasingly seen as common sense measure to better protect players. Many will rightly ask, if not now, when?" So that was the biggest disappointment that came out of the meeting yesterday. There was some other interesting stuff that came out. Refs at next month's Club World Cup will communicate decisions taken after VAR reviews to the crowd via their microphone. As a part of a new trial, one of the great frustrations around VAR has been the lack of communication. We know what this happens a lot. So IFAB approved a trial on Wednesday that seeks to tackle the issue. If it's a success, it could be rolled out to other FIFA competitions. So Club World Cup, you will get to hear why things are the way they are out of VAR. So that was one of the big elements yesterday. So that's where we are. And with opening kickoff once again brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch live, as it blocks out my face as it always does. And from that, once again, opening kickoff, kickoffcoffeeco.com, Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase when you invest in anything going on at Kickoff Coffee, and they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that's in this morning. So obviously that's your opening kickoff. And I know that, let me cycle back and see what the thoughts are from all of you this morning when it comes to that particular topic. Almost 1 a.m. You've got Andy Murray and Kokonaka still going on in town. Okay, because I admit last night, Bam, I fell asleep watching the whose match was it last night? It was the Ruud, the Casper Ruud match where he was down 2-0, and then it was like, okay, so if I want the American to win, I can't watch, and so I fell asleep actually. So so I ended up watching a little bit of the Australian Open myself. Probably will. Will is not a fan, but Rack says, you get how you could be taken advantage of. It's a shame you can't trust people to do right for long-term health. Yeah. And that's the rub in all of this, is that you're trying to do best for the player. And as it turns out, IFAB/FIFA, they can't seem to get out of their own way when it comes to implementation of things. And it continues to be something that is fairly disappointing when it comes to what you want to have happen and how you want to have the game continue to to grow and evolve and take care of your. I mean, think of it this way. Think of it this way. At its most base argument, players are assets. If you look at this strictly from a business sense and you take the athletics out of it, players are assets. Why would any organization, even if you are the owners of these assets, if you are the asset itself, if you are agents of these assets, why would you want to do something that damages an asset and makes it less valuable? Because as we all know, you look at transfer fees, you look at even if an individual, if this asset is sticking with you in town, if this asset is anchored in your community, it's like a McDonald's. It ain't moving. If that asset is not moving under any circumstance, why would you want to do something that damages the asset? Why would you truly want to do something that makes you less valuable as a business? And when you look at what IFAB is doing, stumbling through everything, it's making assets less valuable. If you even looked at it in that most basic business sense, you would hope, you would think, you would rely on profits and being valuable. And we'll get into the Deloitte study coming up next. But you would think that with an asset that you have, and if I was an Office HD, I would probably show you some, I'd probably show you some 60-year-old baseball cards that I have that are right there with me. As I'm sitting there in Office HD, they're right there so I can keep an eye on them and keep them hermetically sealed. I would have probably grabbed one of those and sit there and say, hey, look, you see this? If I take it out of this plastic package, it makes it less valuable. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to damage this asset by removing it from the plastic package? But that kind of protection, you're trying to give that kind of protection to the assets in the sport that we're talking about, that we always talk about, that we enjoy talking about and we love to watch in various forms and sundry ideas. Why do you want to damage this asset? Why do you want to have folks who want to sit there and sit on a fence for one reason and go, we'll just keep doing the trial. We'll keep kicking the can down the road instead of actually addressing the issue. The last thing you want is to continue to have your assets damaged and have to continually try to figure out as you kick the can down the road why you're not addressing the issue properly. Like I said, that's how I'm looking at it. And I know that's how a lot of folks, those of you in the Twitch pitch, there's a lot of folks who are sitting there going, okay, this would have made common sense, but, BAM's looking for the EPL and the FA sending independent doctors to games to do the concussion test. The NFL did that and drew the ire of folks after, Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, was decided, I think there's 3 concussions this year, if I remember correctly, Dolphins fans. After that first concussion, and he was viewed, and he was sent back out there, and you could tell he wasn't right. Those independent doctors did not last very long. They were dismissed from their duties. So there you go. And so that's the one danger in that, Bam. Morning, everybody who has continued to add into things. Rack continues to amaze me how many people reject assistance and advice from those with expertise and substitute their own judgment for medical and legal professionals and others. And Rack, when you look at it that way, I mean, it's you have folks who are presumably healthy, who are sitting in a room making decisions for others, preventing them from being healthier, addressing problems that are there. And like I said, I don't know what the key trigger is in all of this, because I know that we all would sit there and we would stand on the largest cardboard box or the biggest table that we could find at the picnic and sit there and point and wave and go, okay, look, why are you kicking the can down the road? Let's address this. There are too many times we've seen in too many sports where this has become a problem. Why are you continuing to kick the can down the road? Obviously, there is something in that discussion, in those discussions, that makes it feel more important to those individuals that, yeah, let's just keep doing the trial instead of actually devoting the resources that they need to it. What that is, I don't know. I'd like to get those kinds of answers instead of sitting there and having a behind the doors discussion that makes a meeting run over for 90 minutes and sit there and go, by the way, we just decided to keep the trial going instead of actually addressing the issue itself and giving leagues independent responsibility and perhaps having their own pilot programs that could do more good when it comes to concussions and protocols and things like that. So that's where that is with all of this. And you're looking at all of this material, and and that is, I'm looking at all of the conversations involving strikers and new pages and things like that. Okay, so Kokkinakis is up serving for the win. Okay. You're looking at that idea. So D. Creighton right now, as we were talking about before you hopped on, Kokkinakis is still, it's very, very quiet on the Celtic end when it comes to Kokkinakis. And we'll reinforce this with Jarrett to see if he has heard anything. But still, right now, it is, for Kokkinakis, it is staying home, option number one. Urawa Red Diamonds, and I believe that the number that was announced was €4 million, which I'm fairly safe that Atlanta United can handle. Team number 3 was obviously Atlanta United. Now team number 4 seems to be Cadiz. So we have 4 players now. One of them includes staying home. And like I said, when Jarrett hops in later in the show, we'll try to reinforce this to see if he has heard anything else. But it looks like there's 4 players now for Kokkinakis, and it depends on where he wants to go and where Celtic can be reinforced. It is, like I said, it's these 4. Staying home, Atlanta United, Urawa Red Diamonds, and now Cadiz was added to the mix yesterday. But once again, and this is a point that we kind of got into yesterday, when it comes to any kind of replacement. And I know that a lot of you on the Twitch pitch this morning are wondering about replacements and hoping for announcements and things like that. First and foremost, this is not a linear discussion. Never. Any good front office does not have linear discussions. It is not something like, okay, player A, morning, Tom. It is not player A reaches an end of a sentence, you start your next sentence, you put the period down, you start your next sentence. No, it's multiple pieces of paper and multiple essays going on at the same time. You're writing the essay of Joseph Martinez, yet you're also writing that next term paper. So everything's going on at the same time. It's not just end of sentence, start the next sentence. It is multiple pieces of paper being worked. But as we have found and as we have learned traditionally with Atlanta United, the conversations that we hear are one-sided, and we will continue to, for the most part, get these. I mean, unless you have domestic writers and covers of the sport, journalists who will sit there and have their sources. But once again, those domestic sources. Okay, so LAFC in 6 minutes, apparently. So 9:30 your time or 9:30 our time. So in 6 minutes or at 9:30 your time, which would be in 9 hours from now, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, their time. Let me know, Bam. Yeah, we'll get into Aberdeen in just a second too, Tom, since that's on the table. But 9:30 a.m. LA time. Okay, so 12:30. Okay, that might be Leagues Cup. So, and I know that as most of you've known by now that I'm pretty much a squirrel when it comes to seeing things. Whoa, Niall, we'll check on that. But Leagues Cup is thought that you'll start to see schedules with Leagues Cup and things like that. So keep an eye on that. Niall, I'm going to check some sources here and see what you're mentioning, because I don't, and I have not seen anything about it yet. And once again, this is breaking news and things like that. So let me, wow. Charlotte FC. Okay. Yeah, Yeah, thank you, Ricky. Yeah, I just saw it. Anton Walkes has passed away this morning. 25 tragically passed away this morning. Wow. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Anton Walkes, Charlotte FC announces Anton Walkes has passed away. And this is Charlotte FC. It literally is 2 sentences. Deeply saddened to share that Anton Walkes has tragically passed away this morning. May he rest in peace. Wow. Okay. We'll obviously keep an eye on any kind of an update with that as we go. But that's a shocker. Absolute shocker. He was 25, and there had been pictures posted of Anton at practice. Wow. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. And so we'll keep an eye on that this morning and try and find out and see if we can find any other information when it comes to that. But Anton Walkes, who we know here with Atlanta, man, that is an absolute stunner. Anton Walkes passing away at 25. And so obviously we'll keep an eye on that as we go. All right. So that's another piece of horrific breaking news this morning. Anton Walkes passing away at 25, and Charlotte FC just announcing that on their Twitter account. So we'll keep an eye on that. Man, 25. That is an absolute shame. Morning Dawn Star. Yeah, terrible news. And I know that we all, loved Anton, from an Atlanta United perspective when he was here as a part of the club too. But obviously, like I said, we'll find out more about that. If we have any more details, obviously we'll pass them along. But Anton Walkes passing away at the age of 25 from his time with Charlotte FC. I know, absolutely, Niall. Such a good guy. I mean, from what he would post after he left Atlanta United, was headed to other places, ends up in Charlotte. Absolute class act. And so we'll keep an eye on that this morning. Wow. Okay. So yeah, obviously we'll see if there's anything else that comes across, and obviously those of you who are eagle eyes that hang out here in the Twitch pitch, we'll keep an eye on those kinds of things. But other stuff this morning, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that. But other stuff this morning, the Deloitte study came out. And I admit that everything is going to be we're going to be obviously keeping an eye on what's going on with the story up in Charlotte, but obviously we're going to try and do some other things this morning. Deloitte has revealed more than half of the world's 20 richest clubs are in the Premier League. 11 of the top 20 are from England, according to the annual list. As we look at it for the first time in history, you have more than half of the world's 20 richest clubs from the Premier League, according to the latest annual Football Money League report. And Manchester City obviously remains at the top of the list, compiled by the accountancy firm Deloitte, revenues of $619 million from the 21-22 season. Just ahead of Real Madrid, who is in second at 604. Then the most notable rise sees Liverpool at £594 million, climbing 4 places to number 3, rising above Manchester United for the first time in the report's 27-year history. Liverpool increased their revenues by just under £107 million last season, largely off of broadcast income, and reaching the Champions League final, being one of a handful of clubs to report more than £95 million in match day incomes as fans came back after the pandemic. Elsewhere, Barcelona Femení topped Deloitte's inaugural Women's Football Money League list with $6.7 million in revenues ahead of Manchester United at 5.3, and Manchester City at £4.5 million in third. And it is the broader financial superiority of the Premier League, which makes for the most eye-catching news, with 11 clubs now in the top 20. First time a single country has made up more than half the teams in the money league. And let's take a peek at the top 30. And it is Manchester City, Real Madrid, Liverpool. Man U's at number 4 at £688.6 million. PSG is at number 5. Bayern Munich, number 6. Barcelona, number 7. Chelsea is at 8. The top 7 are the ones that are €600 million and north. Everybody else is below €600 million. Chelsea is at 8 at 568. Then you've got Spurs at 523. Those are the only two currently at in the 500 million range. Number 10 is Arsenal at 433. Juve is number 11 at 400.6. Atletico Madrid, number 12. Borussia Dortmund at 13. Internazionale is at 14 at just over 300. West Ham, despite the season that they're having, and last year, as they were struggling and working their way through Europa League all at the same time, Europa League push for West Ham put them at 15 at 301.2. Milan, 16. Leicester City at 17. Leicester City, and that one to me is the stunner of the group, because, I mean, you have Leicester City, who struggled last season, 252. Leeds, Everton, Newcastle, and you know that Newcastle will rocket up the charts next year at this time. Aston Villa, get you to 21. Eintracht Frankfurt at 22. Brighton at 23. Benfica 24. Wolves at 25. Crystal Palace 26. Ajax, Sevilla, Villarreal, and Southampton. Southampton is at number 30. And it was... So you have Southampton at number 30 at 177.7. So that's where you are with the top 30. But obviously the stunner in all of those, I mean, and we mentioned the sheer number of the Premier League clubs that are attached. Updating the story with Anton Walkes, posted by the club from owner David Tepper and Zoran Cornetta, 2 paragraphs. Quote, everyone at Tepper Sports Entertainment is devastated by the tragic passing of Anton Walkes. He was a tremendous son, father, partner, and teammate whose joyous approach to life touched everyone he met. This once again from owner David Tepper. Anton made those around him better people in all areas in life and represented Charlotte FC to the highest standard, both on and off the pitch. He will be greatly missed by many, and our thoughts and prayers are with Anton's family during this heartbreaking time. The club offers its full support to all those impacted during this period of mourning. From Zoran Cornetta, the sporting director, heartbroken from the loss of Anton Walkes, a truly incredible father, loving person, and outstanding human being. Anton embodied what it means to be a part of Charlotte Football Club, and our entire community is grieving over this tragedy. The impact he made in the locker room and throughout Charlotte will never be forgotten. We're thinking of his lovely family during this time, and will support them fully in every way imaginable. So that has come out from Charlotte this morning. So obviously, once again, we're going to be drifting in and out of this breaking news. So we'll be drifting in and out of this breaking news when it comes to Anton Walkes. And if we had all of that material that is going through Charlotte right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. And like I said, as the story continues to update, then obviously we'll keep giving you any kind of reaction that comes through and this kind of thing. But so we'll keep an eye on all of that. And once again, for those just joining us this morning, Anton Walkes has passed away overnight at the age of 25. And like I said, with those of us here in this footprint who know Anton from his time here with Atlanta United and here in Major League Soccer, and how beloved he was with Atlanta United and spending his time in Charlotte. And so word has come out that he passed away tragically overnight. And so obviously we'll keep it, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on. Okay, so Wiley, let me double check what's up with this. So let me go to Wiley, what you have forwarded here. So let's take a peek. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. Okay, so let's see if we can come up with any kind of news here. Like I said, we're going to be drifting in and out of this, and this particular story obviously now has kind of taken the lead when it comes to everything going on this morning. And I apologize for kind of hemming and hawing here as we kind of roll through. Okay, so 6 minutes ago from the Miami Herald, from David Neal, and this is obviously dated information from David Neal, considering that, okay, so Anton Walkes was in a two boats crashing near Miami Marine Stadium Wednesday afternoon. And at the time, he was, at the time of the accident, he was in critical condition. So once again, this is from David Neal, and it came out 10 minutes ago. But once again, it's kind of drifting through the information. Anton Walkes was in a boat crash. Two boats crashed near Miami Marine Stadium Wednesday afternoon, according to Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, which said at the time Walkes was found unconscious, received CPR from Miami Fire Rescue. The 25-year-old Lewisham, England native, first signed as a 16-year-old with Tottenham Hotspur after one appearance with Spurs, loaned to Pompey, then came to Atlanta United, 2 seasons in Portsmouth, followed by 2 at Atlanta United. So that's what we know. Literally, it comes from a boat collision near Miami Marine Stadium Wednesday afternoon, found unconscious, received CPR from Miami Fire Rescue. So from that, Anton Walkes tragically passes away at the age of 25, as posted this morning, sadly, by Charlotte FC. That as they put out a couple of paragraphs from David Tepper and Zoran Kernetta. But yeah, Charlotte FC on their Twitter account this morning posts that Anton Walkes sadly is gone at the age of 25. So, as once again, as we keep getting more and more information on this, we will continue to let you know. But apparently, from the Miami Herald, it is the Charlotte FC is posting the passing of Anton Walkes at the age of 25, a boating accident yesterday in Miami, and sadly succumbing to his injuries at the age of 25. So obviously everybody, here in the Twitch pitch and all across the board, sending all of our love, obviously, to Anton, his family, fans, supporters, everybody up in Charlotte and all that kind of stuff. All of those parties that are attached in any way to Anton Walkes, obviously sending our love their way. And as we get more information out of Miami, out of Charlotte, however it comes across, then obviously we will relay it to you this morning. But and obviously, like I said, I'm communicating with folks as we're live on the air, and so trying to get more and more information out, and more information working its way through. So obviously we'll keep an eye on what's going on out of Charlotte, and we'll kind of be drifting in and out of those, out of that story and everything that we've been talking about this morning. Obviously, news kind of takes the news of the day takes a definite back seat in situations like this. But obviously, we'll try to drift in as best we can about it. And so obviously, once again, we'll keep an eye on what's going on out of Miami with the Miami Herald, letting us know that there was a boating accident yesterday involving Anton Walkes and passing from his injuries sadly, at the age of 25. And so obviously we'll keep all of the news and thoughts that we can pass up and pass along to all of you. And if you guys, and then once again, that's the beauty of the Twitch pitch. So obviously we'll keep an eye on what's going on out of Charlotte and out of Miami. And so obviously we'll continue to talk about everything else that's going on in the sport. But obviously, if we have more information, and obviously, like I said, if you guys see more things since, and you guys have been great about passing along links and things like that, since I've got my two sources here, if you guys see anything else that can add to the story in a journalistic sense, just go ahead and fire it off, and we'll go ahead and continue to add to the story as we go here this morning. But yeah, feel free as a part of the Twitch pitch as well to sadly remember Anton Walkes, gone from us too soon at the age of 25. So what I'd like to propose is that everybody, what do you remember about Anton? And what will you carry with you when it comes to Anton Walkes, his time in Atlanta, his time in Charlotte, all that kind of stuff. So apparently Niall has found that George Campbell is now tweeting about it. So Ricky, this is devastating news on multiple fronts. And obviously, like I said, we'll keep looking at what's going on with it all. And so as I'm sitting here and staring at my sources and trying to see if we'll see what's going on. So so Anton Walkes sadly gone from us at the age of 25, and obviously and so Atlanta United has now come out with a statement on the passing of Anton Walkes. Quote, "We are heartbroken to learn of the tragic passing of Anton Walkes, an inaugural member of Atlanta United. Anton was the epitome of a great teammate with a personality that lit up every room he entered. He'll be deeply missed by all of those who knew him. On behalf of everyone at Atlanta United, we send our deepest condolences to Anton's family, friends, and Charlotte FC." End quote. A couple of sentences now from Atlanta United now coming into the conversation and the discussion. So let's see. So Niall, let me go to what you have from Mike. And so let's see what Mike has this morning as he is adding to the discussion. July 8th, 2021. And it was Anton Walkes scoring his second of the season to give Atlanta an early lead against Nashville. Mike posting one of Anton's finest moments in an Atlanta United shirt, ascending to the captaincy, scoring in his first match with the armband in Nashville back in 2021. So Mike has posted that as well. So we'll keep an eye. Once again, obviously the words are coming through, and the MLSPA has now come out with a statement. The MLSPA and the entire player community is heartbroken over the tragic loss of Anton Walkes. Our prayers are with his family and loved ones. We're in close contact with Charlotte FC and Major League Soccer to ensure that his family, teammates, and all players have access to any resources needed. So now the MLSPA has come out with a statement, and so we'll, once again, as word continues to roll in about Anton Walkes will continue to pass it forward. Jason is now on Twitter, heartbroken over the passing of Anton Walkes, one of the really good guys I've had the chance to meet in the soccer world. My condolences to his friends and family. And so, you look at all of the words that are coming out this morning. And so, you remember folks, and it's a reminder, I think, and I don't think that, and Uncle, you're right on. Make sure that you hug your loved ones and roll through everything. Not sure you can handle the news, understandably so. Going to call it early. Hope you have wonderful days. Hug your loved ones. Absolutely. It's a reminder, and to Uncle's point, and this is where I was going. Make sure that you don't hesitate to let folks know how you feel. When you're in this kind of a, when news like this happens, it's a reminder that we need to reach out to folks, that we need to sit there and we need to reach out to those who are closest, to those who we haven't been in touch with as best we should. Is probably the best way to phrase it. So it's a reminder that in these situations, that reach out to those that you love, reach out to those you care about, reach out to that person that you haven't been in touch with for however long it's been. And also, I think it's just as key a reminder to reach out to those whom are not in your circle. When and this is something that I do with some of the other me's. When it comes to you walk into a building, and you got security guards and personnel there. You're always wanting to. At least I am when I walk into a building and I don't know anybody, or when I see security or I see whomever, I always want to try to make eye contact with them. I always want to try to say hello. You always want to try and sit there and reach out to that individual. And I don't mean for this to sound, I don't want this to come out, cheesy for my listening habits. But a long time ago, I was listening to Paul Harvey, and OG, you're right on. Not to get, but there's nothing wrong with getting philosophical today. Absolutely nothing wrong with getting philosophical. Just know that we shouldn't sweat the small potatoes, and it's all small potatoes. I was listening to Paul Harvey, and for those of a certain age group, we know who Paul Harvey is. For those who may not know who Paul Harvey is or was, Paul Harvey was a radio guy in the sense of all radio guys. And he had, on mostly talk stations and AM radio, he would have certain things that would come out during the day. He would have like a morning comment that was taped. He would have as much as a half hour that would come on at like 12:30 in the afternoon, and it would tell stories and things like that. And then he would have his afternoon comment. So he would be there a couple times a day, and he would have stories, and he would save the hook for the end. And there were always stories about how, like, just to give you an example, how Lane Bryant, and I know that for those of us who would shop in malls, how Lane Bryant became Lane Bryant, those kinds of things. Paul Harvey, and I would listen to these things, and it would come across, and that Paul Harvey would he reminded his listeners once, no one, there's nothing better than hearing the sound of someone's own name. So I've always made a point, if someone's wearing a name tag, if someone, if you're going to a store or something, and you sit there and it's like, they don't know you, you don't know them, but you address them by their name. Paul Harvey reminds me to always address someone by their name, because everyone always likes to hear the sound of their own name. And it's for those individuals just as much as those that we know and those that we love and those that we care about, that it's just as important to stay in touch with them as well as it is for those that we know. Be as in touch with those you don't know as those you do, because you never know when being in touch with that person you don't know makes as much of an impact as it is in being there for others. And now Nick Alifi hopping in with us this morning. Nick, I wish the situation were different, but good morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's seeing the alert come across Twitter was absolutely mind-bending, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy that that we all watched, that we all rooted for, this kid who came over as this this sort of product of Tottenham Hotspur, and still was a bit wide-eyed when he came into the league, and to watch his progression here in this league, not just with this team, but in this league. And I'll never forget the moment when he had the armband put on him, and we watched this kid become a man
Yep.
overnight. And as somebody who, with kids, automatically my mind goes to how excited he was when when you heard about the his kid being born,
Mm-hmm.
and how that kid's now going to have to face a world where there's not going to be a ton of memories of daddy pushing on a swing, or playing around, and bits of life advice. And um, there's it's there's going to be so much media that this kid's going to have of dad,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dad the player, dad interviewing, post game, um, dad scoring, and a crowd of 70,000 erupting. But there's nothing trivial to a child.
Yep.
Nothing. There's nothing trivial to a child. Whether you are doing a little tea party, or whether you are, playing, we're pretending we're at a zoo, or, it doesn't matter. The, the moments that you share with a kid
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing like it in this world. And I just simply pray for Anton's family, pray for the especially his kids, and just the memory of what he was able to give to all of us in such a short period of time, uh, but also the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, we aren't promised a lot.
Mm-mm.
We aren't promised a ton of time. We are given what this unknown quantity to work with, and we are given this these certain things sprinkled in our lives, and we have a choice with it. And when we lose the young, when we lose the youth, it's extra jarring, because it's not the natural order of things. It's not
Yep.
how things are supposed to work. We're supposed to get very, very old. We're supposed to get a little goofy, a little weird, and then in the blink of an eye, we're gone. To watch someone in the prime of their life, who was, because there's a moment when you're really young, and I'm sorry, I'm 42. I know I'm still relatively young,
Yep.
but when you're in your teens and 20s, right? And the universe is, the sky's the limit. There's
Just
nothing.
that level of invincibility that you have.
Right, there's nothing stopping you. And then as you get older, you start to see that little blink of a light that's the end of the tunnel on your journey, and you realize, oh damn, I kind of have to be a bit more judicious with things.
Yeah.
And that means being a part of taking more stock in the lives of people around you, even if you don't know them really well. You just meet them. The acts of kindness. How selfishly, how do I want to be remembered? It's when we lose the youth, we have to take a moment and say, let's take some stock of things, and just be kind to each other. We have no, if the past 3 damn years have taught us anything, it's that we don't know when someone's going.
Yep.
And so to lose someone in their prime like this is just heartbreaking. It's devastating for the family, devastating for the multiple fan bases to which he worked so diligently for. Um, it just blessings up to his family, because my God, we just want to, all we should want is to live a long and happy, fruitful life. And when someone's robbed of that, it's just devastating.
Yeah, and and when you came on, it was that reminder that I wanted to have as a part of our discussion. Never leave anything on the table, because we don't know. We just don't know. And you as a journalist these days, make you sick to your stomach, because of everyone that is impacted on every single level. I mean, think about, and folks in the Twitch pitch, and we'll get to your comments here coming up in just a sec. But you don't know whose life you touch. And that was kind of what I was getting into with the comments that I was making before I brought you in, Nick. You never know when saying something to someone is going to make an impact. You don't know, even if it's the smallest thing, out there, acknowledging a person's presence, acknowledging their place, those kinds of things, being there for others. You never know when you won't have, for a double negative, and I apologize for that to my mother, the English major. You never know when you'll miss that chance. So for us, it behooves us not to miss that chance, to continue to let folks know how we feel, to continue to let folks know that they're making an impact in their life, even if we don't know them. Something as simple as, being chivalrous, opening a door, being there for others in a very small way, because a small way for you may not be a small way for others. And sadly, today is a reminder that being there for others, we don't know when that day is going to come, when sadly, for whatever reason, we're called home. So to not leave anything on the table, I think that this is sadly another one of those reminders, Nick, where you don't want to leave anything on the table when it comes to those in your circle, because you never know the impact that you have and how big your circle actually is, even if you may not realize it yourself.
Mm-hmm. And you never know how, like, one statement can make the difference in someone's life. And I'll use this as an example. I was the if you talk to a lot of people I went to high school with, there will be more than a few who'll be like, Nick Leafy is the biggest jerk that ever walked the face of the earth. And I didn't really care about that, right? I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna give it to you 100. You're always gonna get, this unfiltered truth, no matter how brutal it is, because that's what I have to deal with. And I didn't give one red damn about trying to be a better person until I was at recruit training at Paris Island. And there's a week where it's called Team Week, where you go and you work in the chow hall. And our own platoon came through, and we had this kid that one particular drill instructor was just, relentless to. Mm-hmm. And the kid was down to about 100 and I think he showed up at boot camp weighing about 150. The kid was down to about 115, 120 at this point, and not in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And he went to go ask for something extra, and he stopped himself in the chow line. And I kind of looked at him and looked down the line and slipped an extra piece of meat on his tray. And recruit Ampy Juarez. I'm 42 years old. I was 20 when I first went through boot camp. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Ampy Juarez looked at me and said, "Oh, Alifi, you got a good soul." And that one comment, I was like, oh Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I like, and so there was a part of me that was like, I guess I gotta, do I live up to that now? Do I get, this moment of this one little throwaway comment changed the trajectory of how I did everything. Now I failed miserably along the way, but that trying to get back to, no, 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 no. At your core, somebody said you're a good person. You got to try to follow that string. And it's that thing, you never know what that last interaction is going to be. Um, you know, you have friends who die of natural causes. You have friends who take a different way out, and the one thing that's in common across both is that I've always sat there and been like, "Holy hell, what's the last thing that I said to him?
Mm-hmm.
What's the last thing that I left him with?" And you know, it's very selfish to say that, but it's what happens, and it's again because we don't know what kind of time we have left, and whether you are a player in front of 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people, and the fires are shooting out of the blowtorches, the smoke's spraying, the crowd's throwing beer everywhere, or it's something as simple as a kid, your kid cheering because you kicked a ball into this tiny little plastic net. I promise you, when you look back, they're going to weigh out in a very similar way. So you you just have to, please, 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 whenever we end these shows and we say please be kind to each other, please lift each other up. This is why, because I'm not trying to speak for John here, but I can tell you from what I understand, we've both lost significant at a significant level,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing worse than having that question of, oh Jesus, how did I leave this? So, for all of us here, um, I my whole thing was with Anton that met Anton several times, especially in the early days. He was one of the players who Atlanta United would put it would put out there on a regular basis. Remember, he had the short braids, right? And he was always, whenever the kids would come up to him, his face would light up. He would completely interact. Like, it wasn't just like, I'm gonna sign this, okay, all right, next kid. No, he would sit there and talk to him and engage with him and interact with him. And that's something that I know with my son that he appreciated. He always loved the fact that there were players that would kind of come by and sign whatever and be on their way. But you know Anton was one of the players who would sit there and talk with you,
Mm-hmm.
and that says something right there, right? It says something when somebody looks at you and they look you in the face and they are absolutely engaged with you. And that's something that I'll always remember with him and I'll treasure, because he didn't have to do that, and he did. And so I'm grateful that Atlanta United in those early days said, "Hey Anton, you're going out to, you know, you're going out to this restaurant or this bar or this Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, and just sign whatever they put in front of you." I'm so grateful that they sent him to do those things because those memories are something that a lot of kids around here in the Metro Atlanta area, and I'm sure in the Charlotte area, are going to be are going to have in common, are these great experiences with Anton.
Yep. Teams are feeding into Twitter timelines. Austin FC has sent their thoughts. Portsmouth has sent their thoughts. Major League Soccer has sent out their thoughts as well about the passing of Anton Walkes, getting into some of the memories that we have as 17s. Ricky Ricardo. And I think a lot of us are remembering the Rev wedding. Ricky, him getting in on the fun when we wrecked New England, but also the growth that he showed when he came back to the club. He had really improved so much. Dawn Star, same lines. When Anton returned to Atlanta, it was a great moment. Will. Going to flash back to 2017. He was such an unheralded loan addition, but the way he took over the right back spot, despite being a center back, then scoring in the two madness matches, 4-2 versus San Jose on the 4th of July on a set piece, and the 7-0 demolition over New England coming from the right side, slotting it home before getting tackled. His growth that season isn't talked about enough, but it was a feel-good about that season. Kefsey. I remember him stepping up first at right back and contributing goals in 17, then as a captain in a tight spot when he returned. Happy he got the chance to be a part of two clubs here from their start with his family stateside, and sad it has been cut short. The OG in adding to what Will said, noticed him in the first season, was glad when he came back, and OG was at the game. It was on her birthday when Anton when Anton shone the way that he did. Clayton Pause. Memory that I think of the most when I remember Anton was the banter he and Brandon Vasquez had in the video of them reacting to their FIFA 17 cards. So pure and joyful. Quote, "No, you ain't faster than me, Brandon."
And look, he was a character here, man.
Uh-huh.
And it's something when you watch someone grow up in front of you.
Yep.
And that, I think that's when you think about it, there aren't a lot of players who we watched actually grow up in front of us.
Yeah.
And we watched, like I said, when he first came in, he was this wide-eyed kid. Yeah, he came from the Tottenham Hotspur system, whatever, but when that crowd noise hit, you could see on his face, like, whoa, all right, this is a bit of a different experience than what I was expecting. And to watch him grow, mature, develop, to leave and come back, and you could see the joy that he had when he did come back. That to me is the thing that it just sticks with me. And I'm going to say something, and I'm going to try to get through it because it brings up a lot of emotions and feelings within me, that as a dad, the number one fear in my life over anything else is that my kids are going to have to grow up without me.
Yeah.
That there's some bit of, because there will be something, as much as big as my network is, and as big as family and is my group of family and friends are, and I'm blessed to have that. There are some things that would just be lost to time that I know I would want to impart upon them. And so today there's a family living my worst nightmare. And I've had a lot of experiences in life. I lived in a car for a while. I've been flat broke, where going to bed not eating like two days in a row, 3 days in a row. I've been flat broke. That's not scary to me. I've been in a war zone. I've had people try to bomb and rocket attack me and IED me. That's not scary to me anymore. It's kind of messed up, but it's not. The thing that scares me the most is looking at my two kids, my 6-year-old and my 13-year-old. A 13-year-old who nothing is cool anymore. But the fear of, if I'm not there to help guide these kids, right, then they're going to forget. Then there's something that I could give them that could give them strength later on down the road, and I'm not going to be there to do that. That terrifies the hell out of me. And there's a family going through that right now up in Charlotte. It's a family that we're close to. So, it brings up a lot, man. It brings up a lot. And so when we say we love you guys and we care for you guys, that's not shtick. It's not just radio talk. It's not just stuff that we throw out there because it's a cute, happy-go-lucky, folksy catchphrase. I've met a lot of you guys that are listening to this, and I mean it with every damn bit of my soul, because I don't say shit I don't mean because I don't have time for it. When we say we love you, we mean it.
Yep.
When we say we care about you, we mean it. I think I've snuck into enough DMs to check on some of you guys so you know I'm telling you the truth. That we love you guys. We care for you guys. This is a community that has been built and has been tended to by a great many hands, not just our hands, but by a great many hands. And Anton's hands were a part of that. And so it's a community that's grieving, and it's okay to feel that.
Yeah. Going through some memories here once again with Anton. Bam, obviously, with the prevailing thought this morning. Remember, a phone call can save a life. Call someone who you haven't spoken to in a while. Absolutely. And I mean, that's, I'm too old for shtick. To your point, to your previous point, I'm too old for shtick. And so it takes too much effort to do things that aren't, it takes too much effort to be disingenuous, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. So, yeah, I'm too old for shtick, so I'm going to let you know how I feel. And this is just, it's the bottom line in a situation like this. Abby, obviously in this morning, obviously she just wants to hug her son. She's in tears. As a parent, you never want a child to be gone before you. Yes, it's not the natural order. And so I completely understand that with Abby. And Abby's at the ISC, the Independent Supporters Council Conference. Mint City supporters want to do something together when Atlanta United goes and plays Charlotte. So keep an eye on that when everything heads up I-75. Alex. And Alex has been very, very busy on Twitter this morning. Love you all. If you've been here for a while, you know he says it all the time and he means it, obviously. And that's the prevailing opinion. And Abby is in Albuquerque at the ISC. So, she's having these discussions with supporter groups. And, Abby says, Nick, she's going back and forth from my son, remembering when the supporters did a Zoom during COVID. And he was instrumental in the Black Lives Matter discussion. And that was posted by Mike Conti this morning. He was so involved in all of those discussions. Mike Conti has been posting moments of Anton on Twitter this morning. And so memories from his time on Sports South playing, whether it was a game or whether it was discussing things like the Black Lives Matter discussions. And so we're getting that from Anton and from Mike posting these kinds of things about Anton. Abby says Anton was so thoughtful in all he did, and it was intentional. And, in remembering the 2017 video, Niall, his thoughts are with Brandon. Can't imagine what Brandon, and now, if you're watching Brandon Vasquez on his Instagram story, it's old posts of him and Anton Walkes. And Niall, I would anticipate something. Hopefully the club can do something to honor Anton in their opening match. I would imagine that Atlanta United will do something. Obviously, no idea what specifically it will be, but you have as tight as this fan base is, as tight as the 17s are, and as knowledgeable and as caring as the front office is when it comes to their players and to their discussions and to things like that, that something will happen. And I would anticipate that the supporters section will do something. It wouldn't surprise me, Nick, if for that home match that they do something, if it is in concert with the TIFO or if it is the TIFO remembering Anton Walkes. You will have one or two things happen involving Anton Walkes. I can pretty much guarantee that that's where the feelings will be when it comes to everything and Anton Walkes. And joining us right now to talk about Anton Walkes, it's Willie P. Stout, Will Palasczuk, voice of Charlotte FC, with our friend Jessica Charman. Will, it's John and Nick, and obviously, sir, I wish the situation were different, but glad to have you to talk about Anton Walkes this morning.
Thank you, John. Good to be with you. Sad for the circumstances, and sad for a player that I know that both these fan bases know very well, and just absolutely gutted by the news. Jess was actually the one who broke the news to me this morning. You know, I stepped away from my phone to make breakfast, and she gave me a call. We're actually supposed to have a meeting today, and I thought the call was about that. And she said, "Will, Anton Walkes passed away," and I couldn't process it in the moment, and I'm still having problems processing it because, you know, player so young, had a renaissance in his career here in Charlotte after getting taken in the expansion draft last year, and really provided an anchor for the post Miguel Angel Ramirez portion of the season. Absolutely stunning. I'm so sad about this. Like, I can't even. It's so hard to just overwhelmingly comprehend.
Yeah. Nick, your initial thoughts hanging out with Willie P this morning?
Well, first of all, thoughts go out to the Charlotte fan base and to that entire community. As you guys know, he was somebody who was just a class individual, somebody who took time with fans and from all interactions that he had with the media here, he was unbelievably kind and generous with his time in good times and in bad. Question that I have for you is that as somebody who watched him, the growth and development of him as a leader. Can you talk a little bit about what you saw in Charlotte from him as a leader in those early days for Charlotte FC?
Well, I think the great thing that he brought to the table was MLS experience, which is something that I think the club was criticized for not having enough of. And once you saw him on the pitch, you saw why that was so important to have, because, he knew the physical rigors that this league brings about, and also the way that you really don't have the kind of time that you might be accustomed to in other leagues when you're on the ball. Like, when you're on the ball, you are basically attacked right away. And I think that's something that he understood. He imparted upon the other center backs, especially Guzman Carujo, who I think, was Charlotte FC's best center back until he suffered a torn ACL a year ago. And as a result, Walkes kind of had to step into a role of leadership in his stead. And I think that's just the one thing that you look at, is that he's somebody that everybody looked around. I saw a tweet just before we got on here from Jalen Lindsay, who was another one of the MLS veterans, if you will, and he said he was one of his favorite teammates, if not his favorite teammate. And I don't think there's anybody who can give you a bad thing to say about Anton Walkes, because he's somebody who had the respect of his people. One thing I can tell you is that he's probably, and he was one of the most accomplished FIFA players. It's something that we talked about in both his time when I just talked to him when I was in Atlanta and he was in Atlanta. And then when he came here to Charlotte, he said the one thing that he was going to make sure that he is the FIFA king. And he's still to the time that we last talked to him, he said he was still kind of on top of that mountain. So that's how I'll remember him, definitely.
No doubt about it. And it's a point that we've all made this morning. And you're seeing, you mentioned Jalen Lindsay reaching out, and a lot of his teammates, past, present, Eric Remedi, Escobar, Michael Parkhurst, Brandon Vasquez, who was a part and parcel to the FIFA competitions. And there's one piece of video that's floating around where the two of them were in a FIFA competition in 2017, and apparently Brandon's numbers were higher than Anton's, and Anton, especially when it came to speed. And Anton, the quote that was in our Twitch pitch this morning is like, "Ain't no way you're faster than I am." So you get those kind of memories coming across. George Campbell has mentioned stuff. PT Martinez has come on, and another thing that the fans here, the 17s, are looking at doing is trying to find some way, and they're hoping that in both sides, Mint City, which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, out at the supporters convention right now in Albuquerque. You've got 17s that are out there as well. It sounds like there's something organic that might be thought of as a way to remember Anton in both cities, whether it comes to home openers and when the two teams play each other going up and down I-75. Very fitting.
And I think that'd be fantastic. So much of the way rivalries are thought of is in an animosity type fashion. I think this could be a way to bring both clubs together in a positive manner. I see one of the comments on Twitch saying, they got to play for the Anton Cup. I think that'd be a great way to honor and remember him. It's never good to lose players at any stage of their career while they're still playing. And the fact that we lost Anton in a level when, it seemed like his career was on the ascent makes this especially tragic. And I think it's something where I remember when he was drafted, there were a lot of Atlanta United fans who I knew just from my time there who were very disappointed about the fact that he left there and the fact that it seemed like the numbers game between all the center backs that they were trying to keep, that he was the odd man out. And so it's very odd to see that kind of thing happen. So many times we see transfers happen, and a lot of times there are people who are saying, "Oh, we'd rather give away that guy," that kind of thing. And it's very hard to lose a player like that who meant so much to your team, not just from an on the field standpoint, but also from a locker room and training room standpoint. And I really hope that it is something that we can remember him by in a positive manner, especially when these two teams get together so very early in the season in the third week.
Nick Leafy, what else is on your mind with Willie P?
Well, I think to your point, talking about how it can sort of cool the animosity. I'm also hoping that it and this is pie in the sky, but I hope that it sort of changes our dialogue with the players as well. That that these aren't FIFA players. These aren't digital creations running around that we control with a joystick. These are actual human beings, flesh, blood. They have lives that exist outside of the pitch. And, there are times when we are exceptionally hard on these players. And I'm just hoping that just take time and remember that these are human beings. These are people with families, and they are in they're a job that's very fun, but also very pressure packed. And Anton was somebody who never shied away from that pressure. He's somebody who embraced it. And as we were talking about before you came on, to go from this guy who was wide-eyed to somebody who really grew up in front of our eyes. That's why we were so, and this because you were here as well, but that's why we were so mad whenever you guys drafted him, because it's like, no, man, this is somebody we watched grow up in front of us, and now he's gone, and now he's really gone, and we're robbed. I feel like we are robbed of what could have been one of the great storybook careers of a player in this league, and it's just a tragedy.
Yeah, I think that's something we've tried to do with our podcast, Crown Corner, is show these guys in a little bit of a different light, not just as players, not just as a rating next to a FIFA number, that kind of thing. And we want to give you part of their personality, and it's gotten us to kind of get more out of those guys, the things that we share on the broadcast. There was a moment when right after Charlotte FC got eliminated in the postseason, both Jess and I went down to the pitch to talk to players, and Anton was one of the first guys we saw, and you could tell how much it meant to him to have this renaissance with this team, and you could see the hope in his eyes that even though this moment happened, the right things are happening. The fact that the team went on an unbeaten run late in the season, one of their games, they came down from 2 goals down to come back and beat Chicago on the road. It was a situation where I feel like they all knew that the first fruits of a foundation were being put in place with this team, and he was at the forefront of that. And I'm sad he doesn't get to see it through, because he was going to be one of the real great stories going into the year for Charlotte FC. And I'm hoping that the team can rally behind his memory and play this season out for him in his honor.
All right. So when our show ends later this morning, I know that you and Charlotte will pick up coverage. You guys are on it right now. For those that want to, once we're done here and listen to what's going on up there in Charlotte, how do they do it?
Well, our flagship station, WFNZ, is all over it. We've got an app that is picking things up and taking the coverage as we go. I'm going to be on with those guys at 11:30 as well to talk about anything we might have learned about that and just share some more thoughts about Anton's memory. I know Jess and I are going to try to huddle here. I'm actually going to see her in a couple of hours, and we might put something out ourselves. But definitely want to keep this more about the person than the incident. I think, this is more about celebrating the man that he was, and the man that we thought he was going to be too. I think that's more of the focus, at least what we should focus on ourselves, just because I think so much of what this is for us is remembering that he was somebody who we really cherished and really loved.
Well, we'll make a point to clear the decks before 11:30 on our end so folks can listen and pick up the coverage up there in Charlotte. Thanks for hanging out with us on a very tough day, remembering Anton Walkes for both here in Atlanta and Charlotte. We'll be listening to what you guys are doing, and we're going to catch up here with Jess in short order. Be safe and well, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you.
Will Palasczuk, voice of Charlotte FC. And so we're going to, like I said, I'm gonna try and do some gymnastics here. And yeah, so we have I'm going to try and figure out a way, because Jess, as Will said, Jess is on her way to Charlotte. And so what we are going to try to do is figure out a way to see if we can get Jess to hop in as well. We want her to be driving safely at the same time that she is trying to work her way north. And so biggest thing, Nick, when we're looking at what folks are saying this morning, and Niall is spot on here. I think it's good to remind people, and this was a point that you made with Will toward the end of Will dropping in with us. I think it's good to remind people that soccer is just a game. Life goes beyond soccer. And so this is sadly another one of those reminders about the game in and of itself, and what you were talking about with Will, in the hopes that we are reminded about these human beings, and that they are human beings, and that they are playing something. They're playing a game that they're very, very proficient at, some of the world's best, but they're also human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah, I thought Will made a good point of it. It's like these guys are more than just a number next to a name on Ultimate Team. Mm-hmm. And so, it drives me nuts and I get it. It's part and parcel of the life, that there are people who say, oh, this person sucks, the dog water or whatever, or, well, why did he do it? Why? This is venom and anger. Especially in the past 3 years, I think COVID kind of made some of us feral in a way. And so, and Bam, man, good night, Bam, and thank you so much for chiming in. And yes, be safe and give an old friend a call today.
Yes.
I think we have to take time to remember that these are human beings, and that there are people who love them and care for them, and now someone has been robbed of that, mm-hmm. of that opportunity, and someone has been robbed of their, and to Will's point, that we've been robbed of what could have been, a great future. And that's probably one of the most stinging parts of all, is that is when someone is robbed of their future, that you don't even get a chance to see how the story would play out. All we're stuck with now is a theater of the mind, and how we would envision that future could be. All we can do is envision what might have been, mm-hmm. and but as tough as that is for two fan bases in this league, there's also a family that is looking and thinking, well, they can only imagine and have a theater of the mind of what could have been for a dad to be there and to take care of a family. So.
Tottenham Hotspur's come out with a statement, just a couple of sentences. Obviously, deeply saddened to hear the passing of former player Anton Walkes. thoughts of everyone at the club are with his family and friends at this incredibly sad time. Understandable that you're getting a lot of player mention on social media. You're getting all of the player remembrances on social media, and it seems that Instagram seems to be the instrument of choice that seems to work the fastest sometimes. And so I think that if it was, it's one of those things that you want to get out your feelings quickly, and it seems like Instagram seems to be the way to do that these days. So if you're on the gram and can watch, that's another way of hearing what the players are saying and what they're remembering. And like I said, Mike Conti has been posting YouTube links about Anton all morning long, whether it's on the field, off the field. Those kinds of things are a way now. You mentioned theater of the mind, and now it's a theater through media. Thankfully, we're more in depth when it comes to our coverage these days, to where a lot of folks are clipping things and they're showing things, and it's all part and parcel to that. And so we have these memories of Anton in these clips. Sadly, we know we wanted more of them, but we're fortunate in that regard to where we're seeing Anton the man, Anton who felt that the game needed to adjust, Anton the player, Anton the captain, all of these different things that we got to notice with Anton Walkes working our way through his very, very short life that ended at the age of 25 this morning.
Yeah, and we're gonna, that's what we were talking about, at the front end, which was, for his family and friends, there's a significant amount of media to showcase Anton the player, right? The public facing Anton, who was was someone who really busted his ass to earn a spot into the hearts of two fan bases in this league. That's not easy to do.
No.
This is a league where first impressions are generally, they kind of stick, and they kind of are the story that gets told, going forward. Yep. It's like, yeah, but so whether you had a rough intro to the league or not, it's, oh yeah, he's okay now, but in the early days, or somebody starts off really great and they fall off. Oh well, they're so great, they're so wonderful. Look, there's time to change your story, and there's time to change the trajectory of what you're doing. And Anton did it through diligent work, betting on himself, and taking the mantle of leadership when it was put upon him. I just remember how different he looked when that armband went on his sleeve. It seemed his posture was different. He was very confident and assured in his directions when he was calling out gaps and coverages to the midfield and to the other backs. You just saw, I just remember thinking, good, is this the same man? He looks completely different. It's not easy, and he made it happen. So,
Jessica Charman now joining us, the other half of the Charlotte FC radio team, friend of SCH. Obviously, Jess, we want you to be as safe as humanly possible doing this, but just your first thoughts remembering Anton Walkes.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, this whole thing has come as a massive shock. You always, or you never expect to get this news. And I think the hardest thing to accept right now is that Anton's 25 years old. Nick, I think you put it beautifully when you talked about how Anton wore a captain's armband, and you would have never thought that he was a youngster in doing that, because he was a leader. He was an inspirational character for everybody around him, and you see that with the tributes that are flooding in right now. It feels very surreal to be talking in the past tense when it comes to Anton, because I was just talking to him a month ago with the 92.9 The Game World Cup show, and I think that epitomizes the sort of person that Anton was with the media as well. So welcoming, so willing to speak, so willing to help in whatever way he could to promote us, to promote the way that we spoke. And obviously I feel like Anton and I were connected on another level in terms of being from England, understanding what it's like to move to America, understanding what it's like to be far away from your loved ones, and then the Atlanta United, Charlotte FC, and that conflict of interest. And I think that's why I find myself a little lost for words right now, because it just feels all very sudden and all far too soon. And I think we just have to send our love to his family. You know, he's a father to a beautiful little girl that now isn't going to have her daddy there anymore. And I think that when you say that, it hits a little different.
Jess, and we're dealing with this, and you've gotten to deal with it in two separate cities. Do you remember your first impression of Anton Walkes?
I was just excited living in Atlanta when we signed someone from England. You know, selfishly, I loved the idea that there was going to be an English flag out there. I think that I didn't know much about him. I knew the Tottenham connection, which, you know, you hear that he's coming out of the Tottenham Academy and you're expecting big things, but I didn't really know what to expect. But I think what stole everyone's heart with Anton was his charisma, right? His ability to make everything seem enjoyable, his hard work rate, his effort, and his effortless ability to connect with fans, which not enough players, I think, understand the importance of that. But he always made time to connect with fans no matter how the game went. And I think that was one of his best attributes, honestly, from a fan perspective.
Nick, go for it.
Yeah, just something that we that we've talked about before, and especially you're a mom, and the importance of playing that parent figure, and there's that natural order of things. We should not be burying 25-year-olds.
No,
we shouldn't. That's not the way it works. And for the family, it's just if there's connections that you have with his family, I mean, I just hope they know that there's so much love and going their way in this extraordinarily difficult time. But one question I put forward to Will earlier, and one I'm going to put forward to you as well, is that with Charlotte, as you well know, we were not happy here in Atlanta when you guys drafted him in the expansion draft. Can you talk a little bit about what he brought to Charlotte FC, and maybe how like I can't even fathom the loss that they're feeling up there right now as well.
Yeah, I think he's irreplaceable, would be the way that you put it, not just on the field where he faced some adversity, right? We saw under the first manager for Charlotte FC that Anton Walkes didn't really get too much game time, but he was still able to be a leader on the bench, to be a leader in practice. He was a very vocal presence among this team, which I think is something that we had been missing. I had just spoken a couple of weeks ago on a radio show about the fact that Anton Walkes was going to be so needed this season in terms of his vocal nature, in terms of his leadership, in terms of his accountability. And the captain's armband, as much as it wasn't on his arm all too often, was on his arm in terms of the way that he played, right? He was a leader in every aspect on this Charlotte FC team with the MLS experience under his belt, but also just in terms of his personality type. I think that one of the things that stood out to me that Anton talked about in a couple of interviews that I had with him was the fact that even if he plays well, like, he really cares about the team result, right? And I think we saw that in his body language. He could have had the best game, but this team conceded a goal and he was still bothered by that because he cared about the team. He cared about that clean sheet. He wore his heart on his sleeve with his passion. And that's not something that you see in every single player. There are players that care more about their individual performance than the team. And I think with Anton, that was never once in doubt. And that's why fans were so endeared to him, particularly with the adversity that he faced with not playing and then coming into the lineup and making that starting position absolutely his. Like every single tweet that's come out speculating about Charlotte FC's best 11 next season, this season coming, would have had Anton Walkes in that centre-back position because he made it his own. And I think physically, in terms of the soccer on the pitch, irreplaceable, but also irreplaceable in the locker room because of the influence that he had, because of the way he was able to connect with older players, but most importantly, put his arm around the youngsters that are coming up right now. And I think that I can't even fathom how the team are feeling right now, because this is a loss that's going to be felt among everybody. And I know that it's already coming out from the fans that, you know, we'll dedicate this season to him, and that goes without saying. But I think we also need to check on our team as a whole, you know, because I don't think there's a single person involved in this club that isn't suffering right now because of the loss of Anton Walkes. And that just shows how his personality gravitated towards everybody that ever met him.
Jessica Charman, color commentator, voice extraordinaire for the beautiful game for Charlotte FC and everything else that she touches here, hanging out with us here this morning on SDH, wishing that it was for a different reason, but we're remembering Anton Walkes this morning. And you, Jess, you mentioned how Anton touches folks who aren't, you know, he's that tweener. He's the one who can reach the veteran, but at the same time reach that rookie and bring them all toward the singular message and that singular thought that you were looking for Charlotte FC. Those individuals, especially for someone who was 24 at the time, 25, very, very rare that you can have that kind of a touchstone for this franchise. And I think, to your point, he's rubbed off on all of these people, and it's going to be, you know, it's sad on multiple levels that you won't have that kind of a touchstone going forward with as many different teams and many different players that he's touched in all these different ways.
Yeah, and I think that you're seeing it with the tributes coming out, right? That there's youngsters that are no longer with the club, but spent minutes with this team that are heartbroken as well, because he was able to do that. He had a level of maturity and soccer IQ and just personality wise beyond his years. I think anyone that spoke to Anton would have probably been surprised. It sounds silly, but like when you just see 1997 on the graphic that's going out, it almost stuns you as well, because you forget that he was so young, because he was so articulate, he was so mature, he was so well spoken in everything that he did, and conducted himself with so much grace and experience on and off the field. And I think you're right, John. There's just not a single person that from Atlanta United, from the league, like there's not a single person that would have known Anton and questioned him as a human being, because he was one of those rare good guys that I think that he was the first ever Charlotte FC player I interviewed. And I just remember being so nervous because this job had like come up with such a surprise, and the ease that I felt asking him. He didn't know a silly question, you know, he didn't make you feel like you were ever being too invasive or asking a wrong question. He answered everything that you had. And I think those sorts of people are so hard to find. And I just, again, I think we're all lost for words, and it just feels like nobody was expecting this on their Thursday morning.
Nick, go for it. Anything else on your mind with Jess?
I think Jess nailed it. That his work rate was such that he was, even when things went terribly wrong on the pitch, from a team perspective, you could say anything you wanted, but the one thing you couldn't say is that kid didn't give his all. Every damn game, that he was flying. Whenever he needed to fly down the field, he was flying down the field. The effort was never, ever, ever, ever in question. And you know, you could say a lot about someone, but the one thing that's one thing you can't say a question about him is the heart. The heart was always there, And that's something that is in my opinion more admirable than just about anything else, because he did put the work in through adversity. To your point, Jess.
Yeah, and by far the most important thing, right? I don't mind if a player has a bad game. I don't mind if they're giving 110%. And I think with Anton, you knew that he was going to leave absolutely everything on the field, whether he was coming on as a substitute for 10 minutes to finish up a game, whether he was starting the game. He would give 110%, flying into challenges, recovery runs, battling and battling and battling no matter what. And I actually remember there was I can't remember the exact game, but we lost 4-0, something like that. And I just think that he was the one player on that pitch that continued to fight more than anybody else, because he played with pride no matter, the game, no matter the scenario of the game. Anytime he put on a jersey, it felt like he was proud to represent the crest that he had on his chest, and that he was going to make sure that the fans saw that he wasn't going to let them down. And again, we keep saying it, but that's so rare to find a player with all of these attributes, with all of these qualities. And I think the fact that we're talking about this, right, on an Atlanta United predominant podcast, it just shows that the impact he had across everybody. Atlanta United fans are filling Twitter right now talking about how heartbroken they are, how much, of an impact he had during his time with the Five Stripes, and Charlotte FC fans are doing the same. And I think that that's very special to have a player that was able to stay valued and stay rated among a fan base, even when playing for a quote unquote rival side.
Jess, we know that you're heading up to Charlotte. Obviously, we had Will Palasczuk on before you as a part of the coverage to get the Charlotte perspective. Please get up there safely. Please get up there safely. And we will catch up with you soon. Once again, as always, sorry that we had to bring you on this morning for a topic like this. Next time, hopefully we'll be talking about games and things instead of losing people too soon. Jess, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH this morning.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
All right. Jessica Charman hanging out with us. And Nick, I think probably the best thing to do now is to yield our coverage to WFNZ up in Charlotte. So everybody, if you want to continue listening to what's going on, as Will Palasczuk said, WFNZ up in Charlotte, they've got the app. They're on Odyssey. They're running with their coverage in the just tragic passing of Anton Walkes this morning at the age of 25. It was announced after a boating accident yesterday in Miami, and it was announced by Charlotte FC very early this morning. Anton Walkes gone from us too soon at the age of 25. Nick, I'll leave you with final thoughts. What else is on your mind before we go?
Just please, as we say after every show, please be kind to each other. Please take care of each other. Know that we love you. We really do. We may disagree on things. Adamantly disagree on things. Make it sound like we're coming from two different parts of the universe. But it doesn't change the fact that you are in our community. We love you. We care for you. Please take kindness and share it with people. It's the one thing that your bucket never runs out of that. Okay. It's a book that I read to my daughter on a regular basis. It's are you filling someone's bucket or are you emptying their bucket? And the bucket is that it's holding the joy and holding love, and just share that love, fill someone's bucket, and just keep the thoughts and the prayers going for the Walkes family, and honestly for the Charlotte fan base as well, because we have our thoughts and prayers going to everybody, whether you wear five stripes or you wear blue. It doesn't matter. You're in our thoughts and prayers, and we love you all.
What Nick said, we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, and we will get back to all of the other topics. Obviously, we'll be talking about what else has happened this week, but we'll be back at it again 9:05 for Will Palasczuk, for Jessica Charman, the play-by-play team up in Charlotte FC. Thanks to them for joining us. Thanks to you for joining us as well. with all of your memories for Anton Walkes, gone too soon from us at the age of 25. So just once again, be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody, reach out to those that you might reach out to on a daily basis, reach out to those that you haven't reached out to in a while, because the fact is, at the end of the day, you're reaching out, because you never know when it would be the last time to do it. So for Nick, for Jason, for Jared, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. We'll catch up with you in the morning at 9:05. WFNZ picks up coverage. Go to their app, their coverage on the Odyssey app as well, on the untimely passing of Anton Walkes. We'll be back tomorrow morning.